I made it to the top of this significant hill. I'm not in the greatest of shape, I'll admit. But this is a beautiful scenery behind me. A great place to tell a little story about Samhain. Give you a little look around here. Alright. So I spotted this thing kind of from a distance. I don't want to fall down there, but there's this cool tabletop here and this monolithic looking stone next to it. And here's a little bone of some kind right here. So I'm just going to leave an apple here as an offering to the land for allowing us to come out here and to share this story with you today. So I don't know that you can see it crossing the road down there. Yeah, I can see it in the screen here. I think I probably disturbed some bighorn sheep over here, so they went down that side of the hill. Let me get down over here in the shade a little bit and then I'll begin the story. Hello everyone, this is Eagle Claw Druid, and my channel is about Celtic folklore and myth, bringing a little bit of magic into your life. And happy Samhain, or Halloween Eve. This is a special night in Celtic mythology. This is the beginning of the dark half of the year. It is from November 1st until Beltane, which is May 1st. And during that time, this is the time when the stories of old are supposed to be told. The dark half of the year. And actually, Samhain begins, November 1st really begins in Celtic mythology, or in Celtic culture, sundown, basically the day before what we would consider November 1st. Like we would consider November 1st starting at midnight, but in Celtic world, it's actually at sundown. So this is Samhain, and it'll go through tomorrow at sundown. Okay. There's an old saying in Celtic culture that only a fool whistles at night and tells stories during the day. So we also tell stories at night. And our story tonight is about a fairy goblin or demon called Aillén Mac Midna. This is one of the most famous stories of Samhain, and I thought it'd be a great first story to share with you on Samhain. So in the days of when this story was told, it was much more common for people to interact with the Fae world, the sheep people, the people of the mounds. Aillén Mac Midna was from what is called Fionn, which is the place where the Fae people dwell. So the Eshi, they had been driven into the underworld by the Milesians, who are the Irish people essentially. And so Aillén Mac Midna was not happy about this exile. So he would come to Tara every year on Samhain for the last 28 years in this time period, and he would burn the place up. He was known as the Burner. Tara was the royal palace of the High King of Ireland. So Mac Midna wore a magical crimson and fringed mantle, an enchanted cloak, which allowed him to breathe fire. He carried with him a timpan and a pipe, which he played so marvelously so that all who heard his music were lulled into a deep sleep. All efforts to resist him had failed. This continued, and each Samhain the men of Tara would dread the coming of Mac Midna until the fateful night that young Fewn McKewl of the Fianna attended the feast. Merely in his 10th year, Fewn was already an acclaimed marauder. With many deeds to boast and with stories to share, he had come to the banquet with the celebrated men with whom he had been fighting. Fionn presented himself to the High King of Ireland, who at this time was Con Céad Cadach, meaning of the 100 battles, and pledged his friendship. Having heard of his feats, Con accepted his offer of service and welcomed him to join the feast. Now, knowing that this would be the night that Aillén Mac Midna would likely show up again, the High King stood up with his drinking horn and declared, "If men of Ireland, I might find with you one that until the point of rising day, upon the morrow, should preserve Tara, that she be not burned by Aillén Mac Midna. His rightful heritage, with the same much or were they little, I would bestow on him." The men in the banqueting hall fell silent, as they knew the fairy magic of Mac Midna possessed was very powerful, and thought surely it was impossible to resist enchantments. Fionn broke the silence by asking the king who would protect them against the uninvited guest. Con answered that the provincial kings of Ireland, along with Ciarua and his magicians. Whilst the men made ready, Fionn was taken to one side by a member of the High King's retinue, a man named Fiachra, who knew Finn's father well. He wanted to survive the night, but also wished to make a deal, and so asked the lad that he might give him in exchange for a magical spear, with such deadly properties that it had never failed in striking its foes. Now Finn knew this might come in handy, so he asked Fiachra what he had in mind. Fiachra replied, "Whatsoever prosperous result thy right hand wins at a time, 1/3 of it shall be mine. A third part, moreover, of thine innermost confidence and privy counsel." Fionn considered this fair and agreed to the proposal. Fiachra gave him the great spear named Burga, meaning spit spear, guiding him with the words on its use. "Whenever thou shalt hear the fairy melody, sweet stringed tympan and dulcet breathing tube, from the javelin's head strip its casing and apply the weapon, whether to thy forehead or to some other of thy parts, so shall the noxious missile's horrific effect forbid the sleep fall on thee." The boy took heed, and taking the spear and shield from his new ally Fiachra, Fionn began his patrol around Tara. It was not long before he heard strange and wondrous music on the wind, and knew that Aillén Mac Midna was coming. A fog rolled in to Tara from the west towards the fairy mounds. Taking the flat spear and placing it upon his forehead, he breathed in its poison and watched as the ferryman approached and began walking about Tara, lulling everyone he passed into a deep sleep. Even Ciarua and his magicians were soon snoring their heads off, so useless was their magic against Mac Midna's spell. It was not long until we were in a slumber, and Aillén's glittered with satisfaction as the time came for him again to burn Tara to ashes. Mac Midna took a deep breath and was about to exhale a fire, but was thwarted by Fionn, who with a cry distracted him from his deed. The mantle fell from his shoulders, and the flame that he billowed out was well off its target. Aillén instead scorched a hole 26 spans deep into the earth, taking the magic mantle with it. So sundered was the ground that it still bears the name of this event, Arna Tiarna, meaning Fire Hill, for the spot that Aillén stood, with the adjacent gully named Glen Abrut, meaning Mantle Glen. Aillén Mac Midna was startled, and he was furious. Realizing that there was one here immune to his enchantments, he fled swiftly back to She Fenaha. Fionn, determined to put an end to his fiery foe, followed him, and as the fairy passed the door to the She, the boy threw the javelin, which struck Mac Midna in the back. So powerful was the strike that the spear drove his heart through his mouth with a spray of black blood. Fionn leaped forward, drawing his sword, and with one clean cut, beheaded him. He took Aillén's head back to Tara, where it was stuck on a pole, as a warning to any fairies that might cause trouble for the High King and the men of Ireland. For his deed, Fionn was awarded the leadership of the Fianna. Now Goll was present, and he was the man who actually had killed Fewn McKeel's father. That's a story for another time. Of course, this deed was not without consequences from the Tuatha de Dannan, but again, that is a story for another time. The stories of Fewn McKewl are covered in what's called the Finian cycle in Irish mythology. And I'd like to share more of those stories with you in the future. Well, thank you for watching today and listening to this great story from Irish mythology. I hope you have a great Samhain Eve or Halloween. And you might enjoy a nice fire tonight. Have some cold cannon or champ, which is just a traditional Irish dish that I've read in folklore was a very common thing that people would eat on Halloween. Samhain represents a time of the year that where things are, getting colder, it's getting darker, things are dying. But really, this is sort of the way of things. And it's a good thing, because what happens when we get things out of the way, then new things can grow. And this is true for our lives as well. So if there's things in your life that are holding you back, this is a great time to go ahead and let them die, like things that winter do. Let the leaves fall off the tree. One thing that you can do as sort of a symbolic act is take a piece of string and tie a knot on that string 3 times, one for anything that you want to let go of in your life. And bury that string with the 3 knots somewhere in the ground and let it rot. And that'll be a symbolic act for letting those things go. Think of winter as a time to get things out of the way, to rest, and that's why it's a great time in Celtic culture to tell stories, to sit around the fire. We're not out as much. Of course, during the harvest is finished. All the work that we did from spring until now is finished, and it's time to reflect. Again, thanks for watching tonight. I hope you have a great Samhain Eve, and if you liked what you saw here tonight, please subscribe. We're gonna continue to put out videos about Irish mythology and lore, and hopefully we'll be able to share their meanings with you and what we can gain from these kinds of things. Have a blessed Samhain. Sláinte.